I like the idea of the Real News because we are in desperate need of independent sources of information and analysis.
It's a few days after the election of Barack Obama as President of the United States. One of the issues he will have to confront is something today's guest has written a book about: resolving the conflict between the West and the Muslim world. Our guest today is Eric Margolis. His book is American Raj. Thanks for joining us, Eric.
Pleasure, Paul.
So first of all, let's just talk about your reaction to the election of Barack Obama. And just to give a bit of context, you were a Republican for much of your life. You go back and forth between Canada and the United States. You're an international journalist, and you spent many years in Afghanistan. So with that as a bit of context, what do you make of the election of President Obama?
Well, as a North American, I was elated by Obama's victory. First of all, because I felt the Republican Party has become a theocratic party dominated by religious fundamentalists. It's become a regional party of the South, the Deep South, and the remote regions in the Midwest. It is no longer the party of the East Coast that it once be. I call myself an Eisenhower Republican, and I say my party left me in the year 2000.
You still considered it your party with Reagan as president?
I did, though I didn't agree with many of his policies, particularly his foreign policy. But I was still a Republican, but I became a rogue Republican when the Bush administration took power. And I was happy to say Obama, because Obama to me represented many of the best qualities of the old Republican Party.
Well, we were talking before, the head of the Republican National Committee was at the National Press Center yesterday or the day before, and he started going through Obama's platform: more troops in Afghanistan, tax cuts for most people, moderation, et cetera. And at the end of it, his joke was Barack Obama ran the best moderate Republican campaign since Eisenhower.
Well, it's true. One could say he's the reincarnation of Nelson Rockefeller, who was hated by the right-wingers in the party. But certainly, I think, no party, in my view, should stay in power more than 8 years. It becomes rotten, corrupt, and brain dead. So you have to throw the rascals out, the old American political tradition. It's good that the Democrats came in, that the centrist Democrats came in. And there's so many problems to tackle. We need an absolutely new foreign policy in the United States. The Bush administration has left the new Obama administration an absolutely horrible mess. The world is elated and waiting for Obama to come and solve all these problems.
Well, so talk about what you think are the most critical hot spots that he's going to have to deal with.
Well, aside from the financial tsunami which has afflicted the states.
And as you do your little hotspot survey, I think one of the things that's not getting talked about enough is the geopolitical fallout of the financial tsunami. You know, what happens when Pakistan's economy unravels? What happens when the Ukraine goes bankrupt and other countries? What's the issues of war and these kinds of tension gets so much sharper.
The answer to that is very simple, that America's power is expressed more through its dollar diplomacy than it is through its military power. And once America no longer has the ability to dish out billions and billions of aid and buy dictators and support them and factions and things like that, it's going to find a major diminution of its power and also of its military power too. The Pentagon is already starting to cut budgets, so there'll be a big change. But as I see it in around the world, the major issues for the United States, let me just start with the first and most important. It's not Osama bin Laden, it's not Al-Qaeda, it's Russia. Russia has thousands of warheads pointed at the United States. The U.S. almost picked a war with Russia some months back in Georgia, a totally unnecessary squabble over a 2-0 area that I think was whipped up to help McCain's election chances. But whatever the case, the U.S. cannot kick sand into Russia's face. It cannot humiliate Russia. It's got to find a way of working with
Georgia.
Russia.
It's missiles in Poland.
It's Ukraine. It's the up-and-coming confrontation over Ukraine. It's this incredibly stupid emplacement of an anti-missile system 184 kilometers from the Russian border.
And we saw a story just the other day. The Russians are now have just moved short-range missiles up to the Russian border near Poland.
That's right. And I don't blame them. I would have done the same thing in their place. This is unnecessary. It was an act of supreme stupidity by the Bush, a provocation, as the Russians would say. Obama needs to get on the phone to whoever's running Russia, whether it's Medvedev or Putin, and say, look, let's settle this like gentlemen, and let's calm down. This is nothing worse breaking a sweat over. Take this anti-missile system out, tell the Georgians to settle down, and decide what's going to be done with Ukraine. It needs to be demilitarized to a sense that while it remains independent, it's not a launching platform for an attack against Russia.
Now, in terms of what we've seen so far from Obama on Georgia, on this whole issue of the encirclement of Russia, so far when he was asked, is Russia an evil empire, he says, well, maybe they're not an evil empire, but they do evil. His rhetoric was somewhat more restrained than McCain, but not that much. As far as we know, he's not giving up the basic plan to have Georgia and some of these other former Soviet bloc countries in NATO. So where do you see hope for Obama in this?
Well, I hope that when he gets better acquainted with the facts and has strong advisors around him, that he's going to back off from some of these provocative and aggressive policies. There's no need for these countries to be in NATO. It's a provocation to Russia. You also need, the other second biggest problem is China. The Americans still have not devised the proper formula for dealing with the emergence of China as a new world power. Are we going to oppose them militarily? Are we going to contain them? Are we going to play ball with them? What are we going to do by Taiwan? It's very important to have a clear-cut, sensible, moderate policy and to end Republican Party fantasies of somehow waging war against China.
And we're in this new situation, which I think everyone has to rethink. What is the geopolitics as we move into looks like a continuing and deepening financial meltdown? There are reports of thousands and tens of thousands of factories closing in China now. Unemployment starting to go up. Of course, China still has a lot of foreign currency reserves. They have I don't know what the number is. I think it's apparently close to $1 trillion American dollars. But if the Americans continue into this deep slide, which is, I don't think is an if, the repercussions for that in China, and then what does that mean for U.S.-China relationships? Well,
it's going to put trade tensions, I'm sure. China is funding most of America's foreign affairs. I mean, it's paying for the war in Afghanistan. It's paying for the war in Iraq. What happens if China cuts off these loans, these IOUs? It's a very unstable situation.
Well, in the next segment of our interview, let's talk about the war that Barack Obama says he wants to fight, or at least certainly he campaigned as the one that he thinks the United States should be fighting, and that's in Afghanistan. So in the next segment, we'll focus on Afghanistan and Pakistan. We're with Eric Margolis, and I'm holding up his book, American Raj, partly to plug it, but not just to plug it. Eric has generously donated a good quantity of these books to people who donate to the Real News Network. So if you go click donate, you'll find out exactly what the way to donate and get the book as a gift. And I've read most of it, and I'm going to read all of it. And so far, it is captivating. So you will want to donate, and you will want to get the book. Please join us for the next segment of our interview with Eric Margolis. There are times when reality just asserts itself, in spite of the haze created by television news and entertainment. Sometimes crisis rips a tear in the fabric of myth and propaganda. Now a profound economic crisis has ripped asunder the American dream itself. Millions of people losing jobs and homes. They lack proper health care and any real sense of security. Since 2001, workers' wages have fallen or remained stagnant, even though worker productivity has risen almost 33%. By 2006, the top 1% of households were receiving 23% of all pre-tax income, more than double what it was in the 1970s. It's the greatest concentration of income since 1928. As unemployment rises, we need to know why this crisis is happening and what we can do to defend ourselves. Why are wages so low? Why is the society so laden with debt? Is it in ordinary Americans' interest to have a $1 trillion military budget to project power across the globe? Corporate television news won't ask these questions, let alone try to find answers. Only a truly independent news network can tackle these questions with courage and with ordinary people's interests in mind. We need a news network that's independent of corporations, governments, and political parties. We need the real news. But there won't be a real news network unless we raise substantial funds right away. The current financial crisis has hit our funding hard. Together, we do have the power to turn it around. There are already hundreds of thousands of people watching the real news every month. If everyone pitches in, we can build an internet and cable television network that will change the face of media forever. You can organize house parties, talk to friends at school and at work, send email blasts and spread the word. Distribute this video to everyone you know. Pick up the phone and call a few friends and suggest they visit therealnews.com. Invest just 10 minutes a day to ask friends and colleagues to join the campaign to create a truly independent source of internet and television news. Together, we can build this network. Just 50,000 people at $10 a month gets us to our first level of sustainability. You can help us reach this goal, and when we do, we'll move to television in millions of homes across North America. Help us reach an audience in the millions. Please contribute generously. Spread the word. Let's make the Real News television network a reality.
Your tax-deductible donation makes it possible. Please contribute at therealnews.com.